This episode is brought to you by 6XD Gearbox. More on them later. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Minnoxide podcast. I'm your host, Harris, a.k.a. Minnoxide, man of many automotive aspirations. Today, we're continuing the California trip, the first ever California trip of the podcast, which has been a lot of fun so far. And today, we're on Nelson Racing Engines. I want to hear your story. How do we get here today? Because there's a lot of cool stuff in here that's different. You got LS stuff, you got Ford stuff, you got Hemi stuff. But what does 20 years ago look like? How do we get to where we're at today?
So my dad was always kind of, racing cars or tinkering with cars. So he had, as a kid, he had like a Corvair that he was SCCA road racing. And then that went into a 70 Boss Mustang. And he had, it's got 410, top loader, all that stuff. And he was road racing that. And then he got a Andretti Series Lotus. And then from there, he actually twin turbocharged a Pantera in the garage. So that was kind of cool because he did like back then, obviously they didn't have the tech that they do now. So he had like Delarotos drawing through a pair of Ray J's on like a manifold. And it was pretty cool as a kid. Like He would take me on, this one back stretch where we lived where there was really no, cars or anything. And that thing would like, come on boost, and one turbo was behind my ear, one turbo was behind
kind of like it's going on right now, or
yeah, exactly.
kind of like this.
That's what we're talking about, And he kind of put the bug in me, and then, as we were kids, we started street racing and doing stuff like that, and we were, constantly, almost. We're not going to say making a living, but it was our life basically. Twice a week we were street racing and stuff like that. And then it got sketchy. Like gangs started getting involved in the races because the bets were getting bigger and you had to lock the money and, different things like that. And, there were some unpleasant outcomes where I actually saw a guy get shot over the race. And then I actually saw another guy get run over. The guy actually ran the guy over. And at that point, I was like, I'm out of this thing, I'm not doing this anymore. And so I was like, well, maybe I could do this professionally. And at the time, I had like a construction business. My mom owned a property management company, and I was doing like fences and house painting and, general construction and actually like making real money, And, but I decided I was going to try to do it professionally. So I started up in my grandmother's garage. My grandmother gave me her garage. And, so I wired it. I went to West Tech, which is a machinery show. I bought my first machine on the floor there as a display. And that's an Enco mill that I actually still have that we use for balancing today. And it started accumulating. I made my own flow bench. I had a head servicer, I had a steel abrader, and I was starting to build all my friends' motors.
Okay, so real quick then, so what time frame is this roughly? So did you stop doing everything in the construction side of things?
Well, to keep things moving, I had like for a long time, even after I opened professionally, I still had to take construction jobs here and there because for the first 10 years of business, I worked 7 days a week and I lost money every year. So like I had a nice little nest egg and after that 10 years, like I had nothing, but I didn't really care because like, I just remember there's a freeway, this 118 freeway where it goes from the 23 to the 118. There's a bridge that goes across into Simi Valley. And like I did a lot of work in Simi Valley and I used to cross that bridge and my stomach used to just be like upset because I'm like, I do not want to be doing this shit. Like I don't want to be doing construction. Like I love cars, And so at any rate, I was building my grandmother's garage out and buying all these things. And my friend Cole Balster, his dad used to do these body in white cars. So he used to give out like cars to good pro stock drivers. And so there were these guys there called the Scribner brothers. And so they had approached Cole's dad saying, do you know anybody who wants to buy a machine shop? Because a guy named Bill Hyatt had passed away and they were selling his machine shop. And like, for me, this was the opportunity because it had been a couple of years that I'd been moving towards this goal. And, I went and checked this shop out and like it had a Go Power dyno at the time. has a flow bench that I still use today. Like, it was a full machine shop. It was like a dream come true, you know? And so I couldn't afford it for the price, but my mom and grandmother let me some money, and I landed this like 100 fence contract in like the middle of, it was like 116 degrees in the summer. I swear to God, I mean, we just worked like, I worked so hard, and there was like a deadline to come up with the money. And we literally came in with the cashier's check like an hour before another person was coming in with the cashier's check for the shop. And that's how professionally Nelson Racing started, out of an actual shop. And that was 31 years ago. It was 1995. And I bought this shop, and I didn't know how to use shit, you know?
Yeah. Where does this knowledge come from, right? Because you went from being a kid that was street racing to now you're teaching yourself how to machine, or what exactly was happening?
Yeah. I mean, basically, yeah. I mean, I think drive is 9/10 of the law. I mean, that's really what I like to say, you know, like, if you have a passion for something and you have drive for it, drive is 9/10 of the law. Like, there's a picture somebody gave me a while ago. This little baby like pushing this super heavy car, which looks impossible, but like with enough vision, enough goal towards it, you're going to get there. So I bought this machine shop. I've obviously was in the, like, I had awareness. We were street racing. I was building my own motors. I was building my friends' motors, but I didn't have the machine knowledge of everything. So I just went to work and just fucked things up for a long time. And, you know, when you're starting a business like that, at least for me, like, other people have different stories, but for me, like, it's hard to keep the lights on, you know? I mean, it was a struggle. I was there, you know, 16, 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I would take in anything to pay the bills because that's what I wanted to do. And it's funny because, like, you look around the shop right now and you see like engines, crazy engines everywhere, crazy cars everywhere. But I remember back in the day, like, if I had a set of aluminum heads that came in that I got to work on, like, I would put it like as a display, like, you know, we're working on a motor with aluminum heads, man. We're badass, you know? So it was, you know, that's kind of how Nelson Racing got started professionally, as we opened up a shop on Reseda in Parthenia in 1995, had all these machines, and then, you know, just started learning how to use them. I had one guy come in, used to trade me. He would use my machines and show me how to use them.
Okay.
And he pretty much showed me all the wrong ways to do everything. So for a while, you know, I was doing stuff, you know, you just have to learn, you know, you have to get your feet wet and do it. And then I was selling a machine one time because we had what's called a wet grinder, which is it's a stone surfacer. So it's really pretty bitchin' machine, because if you have valve seats that are close to the deck, if you're cutting that with a carbide, it usually takes the seat and drags it across the deck.
Okay.
But a stone will give you a really nice finish when the seat is up there. But it was old and it smelled really bad, and I didn't want to deal with rebuilding it, so I put it up for sale. And there's a guy named Gene Oley, who turns out was like the man when my dad was doing his stuff. And he came by and very humbly was like looking at everything that I was doing, but for some reason he took a liking to me and like could see that, like, you know, I had the hunger. So he's like started showing me some things on how to machine stuff, and that, you know, kind of spawned into a relationship. Not like a lot of time, but on the weekends he might come over and show me different things, and really, like, in that little time period leveled me up, like, you know, because he at the time I think was like 70 maybe or something, and had been doing it all of his life. So he showed me things that probably leveled me up 10 years in a jump, you know, and that was super grateful to him for doing some of those things for me. But
were you unlearning a lot of stuff at that point too then? Did he, like,
oh yeah.
What were some like slap on the wrist, like, things that you learned?
I mean, none of this is done anymore because everything is like, you know, you're getting brand new rods or whatever. Back in the day, we were rebuilding rods. Okay. What people would do when they rebuilt a rod is they would cut an angle into the rod. That way, when they clamped it, the sides would bend in, so when you honed it, there wouldn't be a shadow there. So we were doing that, so when you gave the product to the person, like the whole rod looked like it was honed and bitchin', but essentially it was bending the rod bolts. And everybody at that time was doing it, you know? And he was like, dude, like, you're fucking bending the rod bolts right now, you know?
Right.
And, you know, just because the customer thinks that it's better, that it looks all honed, you can't be doing this. And he showed me how to, like, one of the biggest things he showed me is how to true the shoes and the stones in. So like the stones and the shoes, they've got to be totally straight for you to be able to hone something and have it be straight. Whereas, you know, I would just be honing on the thing and one end would have like 0.8 of taper different than the other, or the middle would be bowed. And I didn't understand how to make it all right. So he showed me how to, like, you know, without honing oil, true in the shoes in a stone. And to this day, this is like something that I don't see many shops doing, is like when we line hone, I'll true the stones and the shoes in, and you'll put Dykem on it. What I usually do is I'll take like the grit out of the hone and I'll pack the stones to where you get the stones where they're clogged. And then you take an old block and then you just true the line hone in, bring in the shoes in dead straight. And when we line hone, like what I will never do, and that you see shops do all the time, and probably anybody watching this will just be like, he's a fucking idiot or whatever. But I will never loosen a cap when we line hone, because people will line hone and they're not getting the measurement that they want. And then they'll loosen a cap so that part of the cap doesn't cut. And then the rest of the block cuts so they can get their dimensions right vertically.
Okay.
But to me, you got mains that are all like this when they do that. So you want to get the mandrel as straight and true as possible before you put it in there. So those are a couple of things. I mean, there was many, many things that he showed me, but those two are probably the biggest, you know.
Okay. So you get the machine shop then. How do things expand from there?
So for me, like, I was always into like pro touring style cars that handled, braked, and accelerated. Whereas I wasn't just a drag racer. Like, I always liked the whole thing, you know? So I was always, you know, pushing those kind of things, those kind of engine builds. And, you know, it's funny. I found, I'll have to show you later, but we were just cleaning up an area of the shop, and I found these like handwritten letters that I had written to every magazine there was at the time. Like, there was GM High Tech and Corvette and Kit Car Magazine and Street Rodder. And so I used to write handwritten letters saying, like, let's do something, you know, like let's do some stuff so I can expose my shop on what we do, you know. And some of the big breakthroughs were, one, we did an engine for Boyd Coddington. I don't know if that name rings a bell for you or not.
Maybe.
So he was a big car builder at the time, and he had a show on Discovery called American Hot Rod.
Oh, yep. Okay.
Yeah, so we did a twin turbocharged 427 in this Corvette. You know, back then when I was doing turbocharged stuff, like let's say 1999, right? When it was like we were popping off and we're making like 1,000 horse of pump gas, and everybody's like, no way you're making that reliably. And you know, we were, but at that time, like right now, it's like, you probably, how old are you?
26.
Okay, 26. Like 1,000 horsepower to you is like what 400 horsepower was to me back in the day. So 1,000 horsepower to you is like, what's the big deal? You know?
Bolt-ons.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it wasn't back then, you know? So anyway, we did that. We did the thing on American Hot Rod, and it kind of showcased like, oh my God, man, they made 1,500 horsepower on this thing. And it had a little build, and that was kind of nice. Gave us some notoriety. And then there's a guy, David Freiberger. I don't know if you're familiar with him or not. So I'd go to SEMA, and I would see him and just badger the shit out of him. You know, like he'd see me coming down, and I'd be like, David, dude, we got to do something. We got to do something. And I had done it enough to where he was finally like, okay, you know, you could take this anvil motor that we had and you can modify it. So we went ahead and started building a twin turbo for him. And at the same time, we started building, he had a 70 Camaro in his backyard. I'm like, well, we should probably, throw this in something so you could take it to the track. And he was like, I don't know. And I ended up sending my tow truck driver over there. We ended up getting the car, and we built this really nice 1,500 horsepower engine, and the car ended up being called the F-Bomb. And David really took care of me. Like we did the work for free, but like he paid me back like tenfold, because he had like, I think we ended up getting like the cover twice from that on Hot Rod, which back then print meant something.
Huge, yeah.
Print was like the thing. It was like you blew up 1 million views on the internet or something, So we got that, and then it turned into an ESPN TV show. And, just having a relationship with Freiberger was good, because he was, he was the guy, So that was good for us. But at that point, we were kind of just off to the races, because we were doing all these crazy twin turbo projects for everybody. And it was unusual at that time what we were doing, So that really, kicked off, where we are now is we're basically just an engine shop. We have had a full-blown supercar shop for 15 odd years, which I don't do anymore because it took too much time away from my family. But that's what got us here,
Okay, so you get to you become a shop. You're building for folks at that point. You scale it back then. So what's a normal day look like to you now? Are you in here doing some machining, or are you doing the QuickBooks? I mean, so what does a normal day look like now?
So now I'm actually in here working every day. For a while there, I was like the guy getting beat up on the phone, ordering all the parts. I still do order a lot of the parts, but now I really enjoy coming to work. Like, I feel like so grateful that I get to do this every single day. And like, I absolutely love what I do. Like, I love coming in here, putting motors together. I love figuring out like fuel injection stuff. I love sizing turbos. So I'm in here working every day now. I mean, what I call it is ping pong. Like, for me, we've got 10 guys in here, and all day long getting ping ponged. So like, to actually be able to concentrate fully is pretty hard, but my guys are starting to get better at, doing their own thing and like letting me alone and letting me work. And I don't know, I swear this last like couple months, when I walk in, there's a piece that I'm looking forward to going to work. And there's a piece that I'm getting when I'm working that I'm just like, it's becoming like as exciting as it was when I started.
It's kind of like you're entering into like a new season of the business?
100%. I think, and, I don't want to hex myself, but I think, the days of like survival, like those first 10 years of where, I'd come home and the lights were off and, I got my power shut off, or, you're like robbing this and robbing Peter to pay Paul and stuff. Those days are going away. And now it's kind of like, whoa, like, look around, look what you're doing, look what you built, and go enjoy it. So that's what I've been doing lately, is just coming in here and kind of like, I'm either doing the rebuilds because I want my guys to stay productive. So they're like doing the constant crate engines. And let's say if we hurt something, or, like we want to learn, then I'm doing the teardown. So I'm like, my new like title is engine like rebuilder, which is I fucking hate cleaning stuff and like doing all that stuff. But, I'm also handpicking like selective projects for myself, that I can enjoy and kind of learn from,
When you get to a certain level in a build, whether it be drag racing or drifting, road course, or just a badass street car, you'll have to upgrade your transmission. And when we're talking sequential transmissions, there's no one on the planet with a stronger gearbox than 6XD. And the proof is in the pudding here, folks. Half the FD field is rocking a 6XD, and even 3,000 horsepower Vipers have not been able to tame the best that 6XD has to offer. So if you're ready to take it up a notch, go to 6xdgearbox.com, and when contacting them to place an order, use code Minnoxide5, or reach out via socials to figure out how one of the baddest transmissions on the planet could fit in your build. Let's get back to the show. Okay, let's take that and run with it then. When it comes to rebuilding engines or inspecting, is there anything in particular that sticks out? Like, for example, is it a customer putting 87 on accident, or what exactly does a rebuild come from?
Well, we definitely have we have a customer that put 87 in on purpose because he was actually too lazy, or not too lazy. He just didn't want to spend the money on 91. And this is like a 1400 horse twin turbo LS. And, the head was torched, the block was torched, and it happened twice. So the first time we rebuilt it for free. And then the second time it came in and I was like, bring the car in, and we sent the gas out and had it analyzed, and the dude was running 87,
Hey, with the prices out here, I do the same thing, man.
Yeah, I was so irritated, man. But yeah, so that's something. But for example, we just got we have a Kong supercharged LS package that we do, makes like 1100 horsepower. This one we tuned down slightly, but we have it in a trophy truck application. And so they had 1,300 miles of just something that we would never, ever do to a car. And we have a teardown on that. And that is like an autopsy. I am so excited to take that apart because I could take the pistons out, send them to engineering, look at the barrels, see how the barrels are wearing. It literally, you don't get that opportunity to do that often where you have some really hardcore beating going on. For example, they sent me a data log, and on that data log, I'm like, man, how long were you wide open? And he was like, 80 miles. I was like, you're fucking wide open for 80 miles? He's like, yeah, man. I'm like, oh my God. So being able to take data from an engine like that, that's priceless. So next week, we're going to figure out some things on that engine.
Wow. Okay. How do you even build for something like that? Did you build with that intention in mind for it to be thrashed that much?
We knew it was going to get thrashed. We did this boat motor for have you ever heard of jet boat racing?
Yeah.
So that's 45 minutes wide open throttle, 8 heats. So for 8 times, that motor is wide open throttle for 45 minutes straight. It's making 1,200 horse for 45 minutes straight. And so that thing, we did all sorts of things like piston squirters and big block rod, bigger mains, and everything that you can possibly do to an engine to try to make it live. And ultimately, that actually it ended up being successful, and then he got banned. First, actually, let me back up. First, he put it in the water and ended up routing water the way I didn't want him to route the water, and he cooked the exhaust valves, which we did 4 times on the dyno, and there was already a pre-warning on that. So we put it back together, and then he ended up going racing, and he told me he had 10 miles an hour on the field, which was awesome. They even gave him some kind of I don't know. I don't know the exact, but they gave him some kind of 1 minute penalty or something, and he still was, ahead.
Got a lead trophy.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's a fun term I recently learned. It's you're too fast, you get a lead trophy.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the things I was looking through when I was going through your Instagram page or your Facebook page is you're doing dynos on the engines themselves. So you don't have a chassis dyno here, do you?
Yeah, no chassis dyno. Yeah.
Okay. Has that always been the case?
It's always been the case, yeah. It was always if you were to take it on the street, you do the drivability on the street in the car. But nowadays, these packages, let's say you buy a twin turbo LS or a supercharged LS from me. We've done now, I don't know, we've done so many. This year is going to be our best year ever. And this sounds like a small number, but it's huge. We're going to do 150 engines this year. And that is top to bottom. That's making headers, making the wire harness, doing the line work, completely assembling it and dynoing it. So these packages, we've probably built 400 or 500 of each of these. So you can get these things, you can put them in the car, and they're going to you're going to literally better have oil pressure, because when you click that key, it's going to light, Mm-hmm.
Okay. So at this point, you're doing all these engines. When did you start selling engines? Did you always sell engines?
Yeah.
Packages?
Well, we started with rebuilds, and the rebuild, the guy starting off doing rebuilds, that's a tough game, because you got a guy that, has an engine. You're going to rebuild this thing. He's got a very limited budget, and you've got to do there's no way to do a bad job. Like, you could do a bad job, but you're not going to do a bad job. So you're going to do basically the same amount of work as you would putting one of these together on a rebuild, but you're going to get paid, a tenth of what it would be, So I did that for a long time. And I remember I had an employee that worked for me. This guy, Ron Thal, always remember this guy. And he was the most dedicated employee. And I was paying them like minimum wage. It was terrible. He was older than me too, but he absolutely always wanted to work in an engine shop. And he came in there, and I remember like going to my office thinking, I don't know how I'm going to pay this guy. And like, I worked like 100 hours this week. This guy's working for minimum wage, and I don't even know how I'm going to pay this guy, And it wasn't that we weren't busy. We were always busy, but just we weren't getting paid your value. So I remember I was like, you know what? I don't care. At this point, it had been multiple years. I'm like, I'm going to double my price. If we go out of business, then we're going to go out of business, And so I doubled my price, and we got double the work,
Really? Okay.
And then I was like, well, what makes sense is actually creating a package. So you're not taking somebody's stuff in, having to figure out what's wrong with it, fix all those things, custom order individual parts. Those parts usually have some kind of roadblock into it, so you can't really finish that job. So now you got like, at that time we'd had like 50 custom different weird projects going on. There's always like one ball in the air onto the next. And I was just like, let's take some of that out of the equation and make, actual standard packages that are badass. And that's what we've done. We've just continually refined these packages, and literally you can buy these packages and they're way better than the one-off, because the chance that you get the one-off totally right is slim compared to the guy that's done 400 of the same thing and thought, oh, well, this camshaft profile is a little better, and I actually like the exhaust valve seat width on this head a little better, and this head gasket works better, this piston, and over the course of all these years, you come up with being able to have like an engineered package. And then for us, it's like, we'll have, okay, let's order 50 blocks. Let's order 50 cranks. Let's order, whatever, 20, 30 sets of pistons. So you're not like, you're still chasing your tail around manufactured parts, but you're not chasing your tail around 100 different versions of that manufactured part,
That makes sense.
So that was probably the biggest and best decision from a money-making standpoint for the shop, was to go into the crate engines.
And I'm just curious, I like to ask this question whenever I travel the country. What's the shop rate here? Do you have a standard shop rate?
We really don't. I mean,
okay. It's just by project?
Like the car shop was like 125 an hour.
Oh, wow.
And really I was like 90 an hour. And then for the cars, this is the reason why I actually stopped doing the cars, is I would go off on a bracket, and we might have like 15 hours in a bracket. The guy just wanted a bracket, but like I wanted to make it art, And then I'm like, I don't know how long I'm going to charge him 15 hours for this bracket, And so then I ended up charging him like 4 or 5 hours or something for the bracket, And that's like, I don't know. It's hard to charge by the hour, even though you should get paid for every hour. So the crate packages makes it really easy for me, because it's like, this is a set price. If you want an option, it's this. If you want a dyno, it's this. And that's what it is,
Yeah. I noticed that when I was going through like your packages on the website, like you can So,
yeah.
That was the question I wanted to ask earlier about the engine dynos. So when you're dynoing these, again, 1,500 plus horsepower engines, what's your process to make sure that it's going to live? How long are the sweeps and all that?
We beat it up pretty good. I mean, what we do first is we'll prime the motor. So we'll fill a can up, pressurize the can. And before we're even cranking the motor over, we get oil and everything. We got the lifters pumped. We got oil. We make sure that the valve cover's off and oil is dripping off every single rocker arm. We won't even turn the motor over until every single rocker arm is dripping of oil. This is on a push rod motor, of course, right? And then with the plugs out, then we'll spin the motor, because there'll be an air pocket in it, most likely. We'll spin the motor until pressure is everywhere, put the plugs in it, and then we'll fire up immediately upon fire up. we'll check every cylinder for temp. So like you might have an ejector that's not connected or clogged or something. So immediately we're on exhaust temp on every cylinder to make sure that, all holes are hot. And then we bring it up to 2,500 RPM, and then we'll load the rings. So you'll vary the load. These days, it could be 1 or 2 cycles of 10 to 15 minutes of getting the rings put in the cylinder wall. So you just have tension on the ring constantly, on and off, pushing it in the cylinder wall. Then we'll cut the filter. So we'll make sure that there's actually, depending on, sometimes we cut the filter before or after. But we'll cut the filter. Like if you walked in that room, you saw like, it looks like toilet paper, but there's all these filter elements hanging. So at any rate, you want to make sure that the health of the motor is good before the motor ever leaves the door. So you'll cut the filter, spread it. Actually, what we do is we put it in a vise and we squeeze all the oil out of it. So that way, if there's a particle, you're going to see it. And then we extend it all the way out and double check that there's no particles in it anywhere. And then we start hitting it, then we'll come in like a maybe 5,500 RPM pull, data log it, do a pull, check for knock. I'm pretty good about checking for knock on the LS stuff. It's a, really good indicator if you've got something weird going on. If everything looks good, the fuel looks good, obviously on a lot of these, you have to check its static timing when you fire it up. So you want to verify that your Hall effect is in the right spot and that your timing actually is what it is. Because if that's off, like the motor's done almost immediately, almost the first pull. If the timing's off, you'll see the pistons come right out of the exhaust pipe. And then we'll start running it up, at max power. My dyno sweep's pretty long, so each pull's like 15, 16 seconds of power, different dynos you see sweep really quick. I don't really care. I like it to be under load and I like it to sweep for a while. I get better data that way. And then we'll go in and adjust the fuel curve to that particular engine and, go in there, listen to everything, look for leaks. If it's a solid roller at some point, like maybe, 5 minutes into the run, once you get engine temperature, you're going to go in and adjust the valves, make sure everything's good. And then, after the dyno, then that you have something that when you give the customer, it's not going to leak. It makes exactly the power that you want it to do. It's got good oil pressure. Before it leaves the door, that like the whole oiling system, there's no debris in the oil because you've cut the filter. All the injectors are firing. The wiring is, certified. It works. You actually ran his harness on his computer with his coils. Right. So there's a lot of things that, when a guy gets it, it's like Russian roulette. Like there's so many. We've actually developed this thing. It's called a safety package where we put these 0 to 100 sensors on everything, and then we even have in the program like measuring fuel duty. So let's say the guy steps on it, and it's low on gas or the pump fails. It'll measure a duty spike, and that duty spike, then we can go in and we can cut the motor so he's not going to just grenade it. Right. Or oil pressure drops below a specific, cut the motor. Overboost, cut the motor, all these little things. We do it in a safety package. You charge like $550 for this, for the sensors and the wiring and the programming. And that's kind of like a nice little insurance policy for the guy buying the motor.
What are all these, do you have like a standard, are these all Holley? All the engines that you sell here?
Most are Holley. Okay. So most are Holley, but we do a lot of life racing on the super high-end stuff. We do Motec on some of the high-end stuff. We just did a Haltech. So we've done, we used to do electromotive all the time. So we've done a lot of stuff, but I like to stay with one thing. I found that the Holley is like so recognized by everybody that if it needs something, somebody competent will know how to use it, But, capability wise for the money, I would say it's really hard to beat Holley, As far as like, if you want to get into something super high end, we usually go into a life racing unit, or usually the customer might not know enough about life, and they'll like demand a Motec, and we'll use a Motec.
Yeah, this is actually my first time hearing about it before. So it's called Life Racing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How's that differ from like a Motec? Are you able to get into nuances there at all?
I mean, the Motec is way more user friendly, I think. But I think the Life is just, I think it's better than the Motec. It's harder to. Have you ever heard of Cyvex?
Yes.
So Cyvex is an off of Life Racing.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense then.
So Life is like their Cyvex. I don't know. I don't even want to say it's like Life is the parent company. Cyvex, I'm assuming is. I don't know. They would have to chime in on what Cyvex is, but they're, you know, I think the program is basically the same.
Gotcha. Understood. Okay. Was that always your process? Like, or when did, I guess, because like, for example, you look at like something on a chassis down, they just whack it for a quick 2-3 seconds and that's it. Your tune's done basically, just a few of those hits and whatever. Did you evolve to what you're currently doing, the 15-16 second sweeps? Or I guess, when did that become standard for you?
Well, we started with a manual gull power. So I don't know if you've ever run a manual dyno, but it's fucking gnarly, right?
Okay.
So you have a water valve and you have a throttle, right? So you come in on the throttle and it's like a garden valve. I ended up welding like a pole to mine, and then you would basically try to match load to horsepower. So you'd come in on horsepower and then you'd grab water until you could stall the motor, and then you would slowly sweep the motor with your hand, you know. And while you're doing this, you need to be looking at this gauge that's swinging around as raw torque, noting in your mind that every 500 RPM, you're going to write down what kind of torque it made. So that's how we started. I mean, imagine hitting nitrous. I used to hit nitrous all the time.
Yeah.
And then like you'd hit it and then like try to, you know, automatically adjust how much water you're going to grab on the thing, you know. And then in 2004, we were doing this thing called the Engine Masters contest, where like 50 of the best engine builders get together, and then we basically race the engines on dynos. So you have like an average horsepower and torque from 2,500 to 6,500. That average number gets you a final number and places you in like a race. So I started in 2002 with this, and then in 2004, I'm like, I got to get a frickin' computerized dyno to get some really good numbers. And so we bought this Dynamic Test Systems, which is DTS, which was bought by a company called Superflow now.
Okay.
But DTSs were the best. I still run my DTS right now. It's fucking awesome, you know. It has trouble now with the big horsepower. Like I need to add another brake to it. But anytime we're over 2,500, that thing is just pissed. It starts literally taking the water and turning it into steam, you know. And so if you don't have the rev limiter set, sometimes it could just poof.
That's
yeah.
What are you doing 2,500 horsepower engines on? Is that Coyote? Is it
just about
LS?
Just about any package we sell, if it's turbo and you want to get crazy, it'll make 2,500 horse, you know.
Okay. Who does it best?
Like power wise?
Yeah, Ford, Chevy, or Mopar.
I mean, again, we're doing a lot of street stuff. We're not doing like, you know, solid block race engine stuff. But like horsepower per cube, probably a Coyote, but big blocks are, you know, they're the winner, you know. Yeah,
what's the biggest block you got in here? That truck it was a 10.3. Is that as big as it gets?
We've got an 800 cube in here right now, which is like 13. I don't even know how many liters that is. I could work it out on my calculator, but it's big. It's a like, I'll show you guys. It's a 12.5-inch deck. So it makes that motor look like a baby, you know.
This thing is ridiculous behind me.
Yeah.
What did you say this was behind me?
That's a 565 with 288s. That'll probably make 2,500 and do, you know, Finnegan's drag and drive stuff, you know.
Mm-hmm. You call this stuff art. In your interviews that I was, you know, checking out beforehand here, when did you start seeing it as art? Did you always have mechanical sympathy in how things look and interact, or?
100%. It was always, for me, like, one of my things is functional mechanical art. You know, like I guess I've been less on that lately as far as like we say that, but Like when I build a motor, it definitely needs to function, but it needs to look sexy. You know, I mean, we patented the mirror image turbos because I couldn't handle looking at conventional one rotation turbos, you know, and like I used to build these header sets and intake tubings and everything was lopsided all the time. And I was like, why the fuck is this lopsided, man? I can never make the motor look right. You were saying like, did I always, you know, have the art version or the mechanical sympathy? I've never heard it that way. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, like I where I left off was, you know, I patented the mirror image turbos for that simple reason. We were doing so many turbo combinations and I could never make the motor look symmetrical. So we, you know, made a reverse rotator and, you know, made it in sizes that were, you know, actually pertinent to the V8. And that just, for me, changed so much as far as the way the engine bays look. But I always like to, you know, have it look like, if you see an engine with like an engine cover on it, I like, what are they doing with that? You know, like you'll see the late models, they got the, you know, stupid ass plastic cover on there trying to make it look good. It's like, you should have made it look good as an engine, because the engine to me is sexy. It's this mechanical piece of art, you know, and I want it to look like it's supposed to.
Well, like for example, like I think it was like the Kong that you had over there. It was just, you know, silver or chrome or whatever. I'm like, man, if you open an engine bay, it looks awesome. Like one of my favorite cars that I've ever seen. I want to say it was a Nova back home. Sort of similar setup to what you got here. You know, black powder coat. You open it symmetrical. The guy's a fabricator, so he made it perfect. And I'm like, that's awesome. And you share a photo. Like you don't want to be embarrassed to share your engine bay.
Yeah.
So that's freaking cool.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I think it's a big part of our, you know, if you look at an Nelson Racing engine, you pretty much know. I used to not put our logo on things on purpose.
Really?
And just so like I would make it to where you knew that was a Nelson Racing engine without our logo. And now I'm putting our logo on all over shit.
Yeah, I mean, you got a lot of real estate on there. So, talk about the turbo. So these are your turbos then?
Yeah, so we patented the mirror image turbo in, I don't know, I don't even know the year anymore. 2000. Well, I think I filed the early patent in 2005. But yeah, so you know, we made the first ones out of all billet. Like literally, I don't know if you've ever cut Inconel from a solid chunk, but I would make the turbine wheels from all billet. It would take 14 hours to make one turbine. So it was insane.
And this is back in 2005 you were messing around with that?
Yeah, like by the time we had a working model, it was probably, I don't even know the year, but it was early, you know.
Well, this sounds incredibly cheap to do back then as well, right?
Oh, yeah, it was really cheap. Yeah. It would take 2 tools and 14 hours to make one exhaust turbine. It would be like $20,000 for a pair of turbos.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insanity. So how's that developed in the last, again, 20 years? Has anything changed?
I hooked up with a guy named Brad Lewis who owned a company called Turbonetics. And me and him, like, we get along like amazing. We're good friends. And so he basically, they manufactured our turbochargers. So we came up with the tooling, our own tooling. So we have divided exhaust housing and all this other stuff. And with the reverse rotator, the thrust bearing needs to be different, which, you know, there's just things that you learn going the other direction. But that actually brought it kind of mainstream because, you know, I was able to sell the turbos then at that time, not anymore, but at that time we were selling them for like $2,000 a pair. And that was really good. Like I broke my back in 2016 and was in a full body cast and was like, I'm going to lose my company because I literally was stuck on my back for, 4 months not being able to move. And I decided, well, I'm going to actually release these turbos to the public because I used to be like, oh, if you need to buy my motor to have a mirror image turbo, so I put these turbos out there and we sold like that year, I don't know the exact number, but let's just say like $300,000 or $400,000 were the turbos, which allowed the company, it allowed me to get through, with being stuck on my back. So I literally all day long would like answer calls and do PayPal orders with like my fabricators here built me this TV screen that was flat and I could rotate and stuff. And I could just answer the call and take the sales and sell turbo as well.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't go into the details of that story when you were on, I can't remember which podcast, it was a Hot Rod, some podcast you were on. I didn't get that far into it, but that is kind of like every car guy's worst nightmare. If you're making money off of working on cars and it's like, now you can't do anything.
Yeah.
How did you get through that time? Was there anything in particular, like, were you just trying to look at that light at the end of the tunnel? Like, I guess, what kind of kept you going through that?
I don't know. I mean, life just kind of happens. You kind of go through it. I don't know. I think obviously having a great family, having an incredible wife who was, taking the load. I had these little babies running around, and it was even crazy because they would be like running on the couch over my head, and I'm like, you can't get near me, because if at the time my back hadn't solidified, so if I was hit wrong, I'd be paralyzed. That's why they got you in the freaking, suit.
Yeah.
Like even walking to the toilet was like step by step. It was crazy. It was fucking crazy time, But like I said, like it allows me to come in here and be so grateful to be able to be in this position, like relatively pain-free and do what I love every single day. I mean, really, like for a guy who broke his back, like I really don't have any issues.
You were throwing these engines around, no problem here when we're setting up.
Yeah, no, I mean, if I strain it too bad, I've pulled a couple ligaments because now I'm kind of hunched a little bit, but blessed,
Mm-hmm. When did you start getting back into it then? Was it a pretty quick like recovery and then go back into it, or did you have to ease into what you were doing?
As soon as I was able to get back in here, I was in here. Okay. So yeah, I was doing all the tuning on the dyno remote, so I'd team viewer in, they'd have the motor ready on the dyno and I would tune it, in my little freaking back suit on the couch,
How does when you're doing an engine dyno, like compared to, again, I'm going to use a chassis dyno as an example here, but like you kind of have to feel the car. You have to know what you're looking for. Is there anything like remote tuning, right? Like you're not with the car, for example. Does the same thing apply to the engine? You have to have somebody competent running everything, or?
Yeah, well, on our dyno, it's like we already know these combinations, so it wasn't too, but you know what? That's actually an interesting story because at the time when that happened, we had a twin 100 millimeter, 700 inch semi Hemi.
Okay.
That I don't know if you ever seen a Sonny Leonard Hemi.
I don't know if I have.
It's fucking huge. It's huge.
Okay.
And we had 200 millimeter turbos on this thing, dual injection, all this stuff. And I had a guy that never had ran the dyno before, and I was trying to like walk him through, and we ended up having like a belt drive issue. And at any rate, he ended up, he ended up doing all these pulls on this motor with me checking the tune and adjusting it, and it worked out,
Mm-hmm. So why turbos? Why is that your favorite? Why is that your go-to?
I don't know. I mean, these days it's like I like everything, but turbos, there's nothing that makes power like turbos. Like you can put a blower motor on, like for example, and I'm not hating because I don't want people to get pissed at me, but you can put like a big ass 1471 on something, and the thing will have like a crazy camshaft, and it's doing this awesome like surge idle, but that is the most unreliable nightmare for an everyday car. Because like you can never get the fuel right in that thing. That blower is totally inefficient. Like, and then I used to call them 2-for-1s. So we used to do these blown marine packages. So you'd have 2 572 1471s, and they make like whatever. Let's say they make 1100 horse each, like from the marine world. Or you could have one twin turbo that makes 2200 horse, and the sad thing is that one turbo motor is more reliable than the two blown ones, because you got this belt that's whipping around, wreaking havoc on the main bearings. The fuel distribution through the blower is crazy at best. and like the efficiency of the blower to get that thing to make the power that you want. It's driving. You're making like, I don't even know, but let's call it like 400 horse to drive the thing. I'm sure that's incorrect, but insane amount of parasitic loss. So turbos, there's like barely any parasitic. It's really easy on the bearings. Like you'll know when you build blower motors versus turbo motors. Turbo motors are way easier on the bearings. In racing these days now, they're kind of going away a little bit from the turbos, and they're doing like, screws and pro chargers or whatever. But for me, it's still a turbo thing, But a screw blower on the street, like a Whipple or a Kong or, one of those things, it's hard to not like them. They are fucking amazing,
Yeah, like give me an example of one of your blower engines here. Like, especially if you're doing like a big block and you throw a Kong on top of it, you're making stupid horsepower there as well, I imagine.
Yeah. The Kong, like the screw blower stuff, we usually stick to like the, Coyote, the newer Hemi, and the LS kind of lower cubic inch stuff.
Okay.
They don't necessarily have a good, like they have a 3.8. Whipple has a 3.8 that can kind of keep up with the big block a little bit, but they're supposedly coming out with a 5-liter that would be probably suited for a big block. But if you've ever driven one of these combinations, like our blown combination, have you ever driven a Tesla Plaid?
I've been in one, yeah.
Okay. It feels like a Tesla Plaid, but it actually has soul, like, so when you accelerate, it has that kind of torque immediately, but then it revs to like 7,500 RPM. So they're glorious. Like these days, my buddy Enzo, I was talking to him. I'm like, man, it would be pretty nice to get like a third, I love IROCs, right? So get a 3rd gen IROC. Okay. And maybe put one of my blown packages in this with the Roadster shop chassis. He's like, what the fuck? Like, if you don't have a twin turbo in that thing, I'll cut your legs off, And I'll probably have a turbo in it, but that's how good our little blower packages are. They're just like, you drive around any gear, any RPM, and you get in it and it's just, you're pinned, it's because it's making like our, 1,200 horse, 3-liter Whipple package. It's making 1,000 foot-pounds by like 3,000 RPM. Where do you need 1,000 foot-pounds?
That's,
it's crazy.
Haltech has once again pushed the envelope. Today we are talking GM. Sorry, everyone else. At the end of 2025, they announced their new transmission interfaces for our GM listeners, which is a solution for those with 4L and 6L series transmissions. So whether you have a drift car, drag car, or a high-powered street car, you can finally rip out that rinky-dink, almost 2-decade-old OE setup and get set up with everything that a standalone ECU has to offer without the compromise. To learn more, go to tunedbysean, shawn.com to learn about how a Haltech can take your build to the next level. And while you're at it, check out the various plug-and-play solutions for your platform as well, including some install videos. As always, you can use code Minnoxide for 5% off. Let's get back to the show. Roadster Shop stuff. Is that your go-to then, Roadster Shop?
Yeah, definitely. Jeremy Gerber and Phil Gerber, those guys are awesome, man. Super awesome guys. And like they're humble, but they push and kick ass. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen their shop. I haven't even been there personally, but like, I'm actually like super impressed with those guys, and the products that they give are just amazing. Art Morrison also is awesome. We used to use Art Morrison, and their products are incredible also. But I just tend to go with Jeremy's stuff, just because, got a lot of respect for the guy and he's just badass.
Yeah, I think they're like 5-6 hours away from where I'm at. I think they're like not too far from Chicago, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'd be cool to check that out eventually. But what do you do all in-house, right? So if you're getting a Roadster Shop chassis, then what else is done in-house? Seems like you do a lot of stuff. We're looking some stuff at everything off camera.
Yeah.
Is there anything you can't do here, I guess?
We at one point, like there's a car that's not here right now, but it's too bad it's not here for you to see. But we're building a mid-engine all-wheel drive 1967 GTO, and we built the chassis from scratch. We built the all-wheel drive system from scratch, the front differential, the rear differential from scratch. This is obviously, there's a guy named Wiseman who's building that portion of it. But there really isn't. When we had the supercar stuff, we were doing interiors from scratch, wiring the cars, painting the cars, absolutely everything we were doing out of this shop. It's like I told you before, it's literally like, for a guy coming up right now, it's like the Wild West. Like, you literally, if you've got some talent and you've got some customers that believe in you, you can build just about anything. I mean, you can build your own engine from scratch, no problem. And with AI coming in right now, I can only even imagine what that's going to do. Like, we have AI help us with some of the structure of, suspension components or this and that. And it comes out looking like a spider web or something, but it's like super light, super strong. Like I said, like, I'm coming into work so grateful and so happy and realizing like this is just the beginning. I'm 52 years old and like there's so much more to do in this industry right now. It almost gives me goosebumps right now just talking about it.
You got a lot of runway, right? Like 52. I always mess with Jay, right? Because he's always talking like he's on the back nine, and I'm like, dude, you are young, man. You got so much runway. One of the things we were looking at is like the 3D printed. What were those headers we were looking at?
Yeah,
it's like, I like guys that are looking to the future of the industry, because if you're stuck in the old ways, like, you're just going to get left behind. But when you're looking at stuff like that, what made you want to pursue the 3D printing stuff, for example? All right. So before the SD card filled up, you were talking about Tuatara?
Oh, yeah. So the Tuatara, like, years and years ago, we were 3D printing collectors out of Inconel. And
oh, really?
Everybody was like, that'll never work, but it was working great. Mm-hmm. We did all sorts of air intakes out of 3D printed aluminum. We've done carb hats out of 3D printed aluminum. And just recently, what I was showing you earlier is we actually did a full 3D printed header from, like not parts of a header where you got to weld it. It was all one piece, except for I just welded the flanges on because I didn't want to deal with them machining it. But it's really like, there's a company out there as Singer or Zinger.
Yeah, Singer, the Porsche company.
Singer, not the Porsche company. They have this. It's a supercar. It's CZINGR, I think, or something.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
But the whole car is additive manufacturing. Everything, like the everything about that car is 3D printed. And it's pretty crazy. So if you got a good designer, like. And I'm not a designer. Like, obviously I don't know how to do all the computer design. So I have people hired to do that, but I have a vision of it. And, you can do like what I'm looking at lately is like the casting process where you can 3D print molds for like limited runs of ideas. Like, we've had a 4-valve 500 cubic inch engine on the back burner for a long time, and with additive manufacturing, I feel like I could cast a block in the heads at an affordable price, and then pop out a few just to see how they run. Because I feel like everybody loves a Coyote, right? I mean, Coyotes are, well, not everybody. If you're a GM guy, you don't.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But like, they have you can drive around a Harley, and then you can drive around like a Ducati, right? And there's a difference between the Harley and the Ducati. Like you got the Rice Rocket and the Harley. The Harley sounds bitchin', like, it has its own aura, but it is not like, a 15,000 RPM bike motor, and 4 valves are really like, everybody in my shop's going to want to kill me, but 4 valves are where it's at, dude. Like, if you want to make horsepower, an engine is an air pump. The more air you put in and the more fuel you put in, the more horsepower you're going to make. That's all it is. It's an air pump. And so 2 valves versus 4 valves, unless you get into like a fuel car or some kind of crazy boosted thing, for me, like, I would definitely love to do like an 11,000 RPM, 500 inch big block that you could drive on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. So we've had this project in the works for like in a while, but it's a money thing. Like, being able to do it all, on my own dime or whatever.
What's the hardest part about doing it?
To dedicate the time to it and the cost, obviously, so a project like that. But now, like, I look at, what you can do with, printing molds and stuff like that. And it's I'm starting to think, ooh, I don't know. might have to do this soon, because like crankshafts and rods, pistons, cams, all that stuff, you just go to a professional and have them make you one, but it's always been like water jacketing the block and all of that other stuff that, you can do in a billet. Like we've done a ton. I've got a 4-cam, small block that we did out of all billet like 15 years ago, sitting there in the corner. But, you got to cut the water jackets in the thing, and then you got to plate it. And, being able to actually do a casting on a head versus doing all sorts of weird drill and this and that. And, it's pretty cool.
Are you capable of doing any of that stuff in-house, or is that something you'd have to outsource?
You mean like printing something like that?
Well, no, if you if you had to like machine jackets and all that stuff.
Well, we used to have like literally right next door was D&K Machine.
Okay.
And like he unfortunately ended up passing away, but he was our CNC machinist forever. And that was like we literally, walk across the way and, hey, Dave, let's try this. Let's try that. So that's why you see like almost all these different things like the alien intake and all these different billet parts that we do was like a relationship with our neighbor, So it was pretty cool.
What has been the most fascinating thing that you've learned in the last, let's call it 2, 3, 5 years with any of these projects?
I don't know. What's the most interesting thing that I learned in the last 5 years?
Like the Tuatara, that was a hell of a challenge, I imagine.
Yeah, I'll tell you what was nice about the Tuatara and what I learned with that is, one, I worked with this guy, Chris Muzio, who owns Danzio Performance. Okay. This guy, it's like I consider myself like a tuner, but I'm not like a real tuner. Like Chris Muzio is like maybe like a Shane T or is Jay, that guy, what's his name? Job, Spetter maybe or something.
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah.
But they or Ryan Witt from Holly or whatever. These guys can look at the oscilloscope graph on the crank and be like, oh, what missed right there, or they just have such an ability to be able to look at data and decipher like everything. Like it's like a blood test. They're looking at the data like a blood test, So I was able to work with him and being able to see that individually trimming every cylinder when you're wide open at 2,200 horsepower for 50 seconds, that every cylinder needs to run as its own cylinder. It's not just a V8 and every injector gets its own fuel and every injector gets its own, like when we ran that engine, every cylinder had its own timing. Every cylinder had its own fueling, and they were off by like 8.5% between cylinders. Mm-hmm. And when we got that right, the reliability of that engine went through the roof. So that was like a big eye opener. It was like, wow, you can control these things so high level and have if you get outside of a parameter, have a safety, pull it back so you don't just grenade it, We did grenade that engine though. We grenaded it on the runway once, but that's what happens. And when you're pushing, you're gonna hurt things from time to time. But that thing has a two-way record of 281 miles an hour, and we went 295 miles an hour one way in that car. And I'm hoping that pretty soon we're probably going to go, well beyond 300 miles an hour.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong here. Looking back at it, I think it was 4 or 5 years ago, whatever it was, whenever they did that record. Was that where the controversy was? They only did 295 one way? Is that what it was?
No, that was a whole different controversy.
Thing?
That thing was and I can't say one way or another what happened there. I'm not even going to get into what they had going on right there. But that was like, they didn't go anywhere near as fast as what they claimed on the first runs because the radar wasn't set up correctly. Mm-hmm. So, but the time that we went out there, actually they hired Race Logic to come out and instrument the whole car, and they hired some YouTube influencers that actually called them out on their stuff to be there to make sure it was all legit. And it went 279 one way and it went 286 the other way. and with a 281 mile per hour average. And I mean it. And the thing is we added some power into it in the second run, only in seventh gear above a certain RPM, and it picked up like 6 or 7 miles an hour so fast that we were like, we were out of time, but like could have turned it around and gone 300.
Yeah.
Then we went out there a second time and went 295 one way. But the thing is, you got to do everything for FIA. You got to do everything within an hour. So you got to do a run one way, have everything ready, car cooled down, ready to go, going the opposite direction within an hour.
Okay. Were you out there for those runs then?
I was, yeah.
Okay. What does that look like? Are you turning around car? I mean, like, for example, you go to like the racetrack and people have like these, leaf blowers trying to cool off the car. Like, is it like a crazy science experiment? What does that day look like?
Well, that day looks like it's sketchy because like the driver of the car, and if there's a problem at 300, he's probably dead, So that's one thing. So you're like trying to make sure everything is, good, and on that particular day that I was at Cape, it had went 295 on the first pass. And then we went to go turn it around and it was on a rip. It was actually 40 miles an hour faster at the mile than it was on the previous run at 295. But you're going so quick, there's 2 flags and you only have 2.5 miles, and then you have like a mile shutdown. If you miss the flag, you're gonna fly into the swamp. So the guy saw the flag and thought it was the other flag, so he hit the brakes on the second one, And so we turned it around again, and then we had like a O2 failure. And I was like saying, we can't run it. The O2s aren't even on. And they were like, we got limited time, and they went without the O2s, and that wasn't great. So it didn't run as good on that pass. But I don't know. I got off topic. What was the actual question?
Oh, what does the day look like?
Yeah. So the day looked like we're making sure that before the run starts, everything in the engine is cooled down. So like, the water in the intercoolers is cooled down. You got to do all sorts of checks on the tires because the tires are...
That's the most important part.
Yeah, right. And they have like... At first, they had sensors in the tires where they were like... The sensors were braking from centrifugal force and getting launched inside of the deal. Mm-hmm. But so they had like... At first, they had reps out there from Michelin doing that. And then I think Michelin was like, yeah, I don't even know if we want to be, like have that liability. But, everybody is just, trying to do the best that they can because a guy's life is on the line. Like this isn't like, for sure, like guys that are getting into cars nowadays, their life is on the line every day because people are so fast. Like guys are going in the 3s and fucking, 2 whatever in the 8th. It's crazy how fast they're going, But you're in a production car without a roll cage going 300 miles an hour, and you got like maybe 2 bottles of fire system, like you're going to be lucky if you walk away from that, So the guy who was driving that, like I made him sign like a death waiver and stuff. I was like, dude, like I'm down for doing this, but I'm not going to lose a business over something bad happening,
How'd that relationship start, by the way? Were you just approached one day like, hey, we got a idea. We need the engine.
Yeah. Yeah, so like we started off with their cars. They had a car called an Aero TT, which was the earlier version of the Tuatara, and so we built some of those and had good success with that, and then started on the Tuatara stuff, which was like a clean slate design.
What time frame would this be roughly?
Well, the Aero TTs were early, and then. They spent a lot of time on the Tuatara. So, I don't know how many years, but there was a big year gap between the Aero TT and the Tuatara. So we had multiple years where we didn't do anything with SSC. And then we came back and spent a good amount of time developing what's currently in the car right now.
Okay. Are you able to speak to what makes it special? Like, how is it different than any of the big 3 that you have in here? I guess, what is it? Is the engine based off of anything that exists?
Yeah, it's based off of an LS.
Okay.
But it's totally like, like we use, you know, a Timken crank made by Bryant, like that has been scienced out. Like this crank is not your normal 180. It's actually extra heavy to deal with like longevity. And then the rods currently are designed by a company called Pankel, which are titanium. I mean, the total rod weight in this engine is like 470 some grams for the total rod. And the bob weight of the entire rotating is like 1,500 of the tire rotating. So you have this super light rotating, so you don't feel all the buzz of like, have you ever been in a 4-cylinder car? Yeah. And when you're sitting there at idle, you kind of feel the thing kind of buzzes versus like a V8 car. Because usually 4-cylinders are like a 180. So they have like high vibration. So we want to have the rotating be as light as possible so you could, you know, have long engine life. Matter of fact, we just got one in here that had 6,000 miles and like the bearings look like I could still see the dial bore mark when I measured it in the bearing. You know?
6,000 miles on a SSC?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. When did those start getting delivered? A few years ago?
Yeah. Further than that. Yeah.
6,000 miles is crazy on a car like
that.
Yeah. Respects to whoever that is.
Yeah. They drive it everywhere. Yeah. They drive it to all the shows and everything. So that was cool to actually get it back, look at everything. And like I said earlier before, to like do like an autopsy. Okay, what's working? What can we improve upon? And that's what we're doing, you know? So I'm excited to see what these next 4 do.
So, okay. They approached you. You're looking to do this project. You're like, all right, LS is the move. Are you doing everything like from custom heads? Are you doing like, how crazy are you getting it? You mentioned the rods and the pistons.
Well, to give you an idea, that car has 10 O2 sensors. It's got a pressure sensor in the exhaust turbine. It's got a pressure sensor on the intake turbine, both sides. It's got 2 map sensors. Like that thing is like electronic to the moon. So it can be monitored and adjusted. So it has a really good safety system in the car where OEs are not even going anywhere near as crazy as what we're doing on that car, you know. And then as far as hard parts, it's got the best that money can buy. I mean, the connecting rods alone are $13,000 for the connecting rod in that motor, and the crankshaft is $12,000. You know, just the Mallory in the crankshaft is about like $2,600 for Mallory, just the heavy metal for balancing it. I mean, the pins are DLC, the rockers on those have DLC coating. I mean, everything about that engine is nice, you know. So, and it just keeps getting nicer. So when you're buying one of those, you know, you're getting a nice piece.
Have you gone to go for a drive in one at all? Or
yeah. We were at Willow, driving around in one of those things at Willow. And it's scoots, man. You get in a car like that where it only weighs 3,000 pounds. You know, it's got some power.
It's all engine,
and it's not like what we're driving. Like the nose is like it like falls off. It's like you're sitting in a lawn chair, you know. With you know, I mean that's a bad example.
No, I get what you're saying though. It's like you're right there looking over the hood.
Yeah, it's badass.
When you think about the stuff you've driven over the years, what's been the best experience?
I don't know. I mean, to be honest, like it maybe not. I mean, there's a couple cars that stick out that are like really that were like eye opening. Is like back in the day we built this Pontiac Tempest. It was a twin turbo Pontiac Tempest, and that was kind of the first like chassis car twin turbo that I drove on the street. And that car was fucking fast. That car on pump gas was going 5s in the 8th. And it probably would do 5s on the street. But this was 2004, maybe.
That is insane.
Yeah.
Especially for 2004.
Yeah. And that car, when you're driving on the street going 5s in the 8th, like it is so stupid, you know? I mean, it was, and the car felt really safe. Because the guy set up the chassis right. It had tire on it. Like it wasn't sketchy, you know. So that car was an eye opener to me as to how fast a street car could be. I mean, you really don't need any faster than that for the street, to be honest. But I mean, obviously everybody's, you know, on the street, it's just very hard to do something like that, you know. These days it's, again, you know, not so big a deal, but.
It's insane what you could do on the street now.
Yeah. I mean, all-wheel drive stuff is fucking crazy too. But then, speaking of sketchy, we did like a twin turbo RX-7, which you actually saw today. And that car did not feel super safe, but it had insane amount of power, fun. But, like some of the cars that I really, really loved, there was an Impala that we did that's on our YouTube channel that was just a 572 big block NA. But the way the car felt, like the steering was good, the suspension was good, it sounded good, like you don't have to have all this power to still have a totally badass car,
What's the lowest power build or engine package you put out of here?
650.
650? Is that like a LS-NA sort of deal?
NALS, yeah.
Are you upgrading for example, I've always heard like the 427s are a little problematic. Are you doing some crazy upgrades to those to make them live longer?
Yeah, they're not even, there's really nothing. There's not much in that motor that's original GM anymore. We use a Dart LS next block. It's got a billet crank. It's got these boost line rods. It's got a custom CP piston. I've worked with comp and doing spin ton tests on all these. Like, we have some really nice lobes. Like, we can do a hydraulic roller with like under 400 pounds of spring pressure and rev that thing 7,500 with under 400 pounds of spring pressure. You never have to adjust the valves. That's something like you asked me earlier about, like, what is some of the things that you've done recently that have been big? And some of the big things is the valve train, because we can have this, back in the day, you'd say, oh, you're running a juicer because like the cam has oil in it. So it's like it's a juicer, Yeah, too young. You're too young to remember
right
that
over my head.
stuff.
Yeah.
But at any rate, we're running a hydraulic cam, and the thing, it acts like it's like a solid roller. The thing's making a ton of power. You rev it like a solid roller. You never have to adjust it. Mm-hmm. This is something that, like, have your cake and eat it too. We always used to claim that, but now it's like, you literally can, and the power that the motor, these motors, the power that they're making, it's actually, I got a lot of guys, for example, the other day, the guy was upset that we didn't make the 2000 on the dyno. So we had to put it back on to make the 2000 horsepower. Totally unnecessary on the street. You're never going to use that, but, so like for the longest time we thought, more power. And then at a certain point we shifted to more reliability, easier for the customer to install. Mm-hmm. What can we do more, to get the package, more things done on the package, because you're at a power level that's totally insane,
Yeah, that's kind of one of the things that I noticed here is like a lot of these cars you're like pointing out, they're like on street tires pretty much. Yeah. Like it's not like they're on beadlocks or anything besides the RX-7 back there. What does your typical customer look like? Just cruising A to B? Is it they're going to the track? They're doing everything?
We've got a variety of different customers. You got guys that take it to the track, but probably our biggest customer, if you would say in a percentage, is a guy who wanted a hot rod his whole life. He started to build a hot rod, and he wants something that's going to scare him a little bit, but still have like manners to where he can drive it anywhere. And that's probably our biggest business. We've got guys, some guys go to the track, some guys are doing, got a pro drifter, whatever. But most of our guys are just a normal guy that can afford one of these things, and he's building his dream car,
Have you done any drift cars?
Yeah, we've got Andy Hatley's drift car. He's a pro driver right now. He's racing today, right now.
Okay. Yeah, I heard there's some event, there's a number of track events going on this weekend or something. So what's the most insane project you've been a part of? Like, wow, I can't believe I did that.
I don't know. Honestly, it seems like the next one.
The next one? Yeah.
Yeah. Every project lately, it's like Scott, who I can hear, who's coming in here right now. Scott is always like, that's the most insane thing I've ever seen, And I'm like, I know, it's crazy, right? And then the next one comes in, and they're like, fuck, this is insane, So it just seems like every single time it gets a little crazier, because you're putting something better into it, And the engines that I'm building, I'm kind of hand selecting that I'm doing when I'm working on. It's because I actually want to do something different, Mm-hmm. So
you're probably going to need to ship your car soon, or know somebody that will. And as someone who used to work in freight logistics, I understand the difficulties of finding reliable transport, especially when trying to make it to rallies, racetracks, or to warehouse to hide your Corvette, because you're going through a messy divorce, and when she says everything, she means everything. Anywho, Nick Shear is the proud owner of Sure Thing Logistics. Having traveled much of the country with every type of vehicle you can imagine, he's got the experience and reliability that you want to ensure a safe journey for your pride and joy. If you want to find out what it takes to ship your vehicle, go to surethlinglogistics.net, fill out the intake form, and be sure to let him know I sent you. Let's get back to the show. Okay, so where were we?
Yeah, so the project that I really can't tell you a lot about, it could be a total failure. That's what makes it exciting. Like, there's high stakes on it. So if it doesn't do well, there's a lot of responsibility on me. But if it does well, it's pretty amazing that, there's something, I don't know, when you do something with that kind of like, maybe stakes, pressure, whatever, if you're successful, there's a type of peace that I get that you can't describe or buy. Is there's just something that happens where I feel something inside where I'm just like, I want that feeling again.
Where you don't have to say what the idea is, but what inspired the idea? Were you just kind of thinking one day, or were you working on something?
Yeah, I just, it's just evolving the engine to the next step. Can we make big power reliably for a long time? And that's what that project is.
Mm-hmm. You do a lot of manufacturing of your own parts here as well, then, at that point.
Yeah, we do, I think, I was talking to, Joe from FFRE?
I'm familiar. I know of him.
So we originally did an engine called the Code Red, which was for Shelby, which was this twin turbo 2008 Mustang. Mm-hmm. And that was like the last car that Shelby did before Carol died. And then Joe has taken over that program. And he does like the twin turbo Code Reds, which that guy is fucking awesome. I love that guy. I'm like blowing up his phone all the time. Hey man, what do you think about this? But we developed 200 new parts for that car when we did that project. Right?
That's insane.
Yeah. 200 parts, and that's from like intake manifold to coolant crossovers to a special power steering reservoir that didn't foam. I mean, we develop a lot of different things here.
Okay, so what did that look like then? Did you have like a bunch of engineers on payroll at that point, or?
No, they're just like, I've been lucky. Like a lot of my best friends turned into engineers, and like, a funny story is one of my best friends, Chris Emhoff, like back when we were young, we used to go party. And then afterwards, like when we came back, I'd be like, let's fucking design some shit, man. We'd be all kind of half delirious designing stuff together on the computer, So a lot of the designs in the original early part of Nelson Racing were me and Chris designing stuff, mm-hmm. coming back drunk, or, a good friend of mine, Cole Balster, still to this day, he is an engineer and, we'll design stuff together. And this is somebody that I street raced with when I was 18, but a guy that doesn't work here anymore that used to be our designer was a guy named Xander Guerra. And he has like a wild imaginative mind, and he's really good with like solid modeling. So we would do all sorts of weird shit. Those headers right there that you saw that are 3D printed, he ended up modeling those, So, but he has his own thing, in Florida or wherever he is right now.
Yeah, that's kind of cool, like how some people can kind of go on and do their own thing, like grow within the industry in their own way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so many guys that have come through this shop all have shops, like
really?
Sean at Empire, this guy Dragos, like so many guys that have come through here. It's like, seems like it's a stepping stone. They're here for like 3 or 4 years and you're like, fuck yeah. And then they're like, I'm starting my own business. You're like,
yeah,
man.
You cultivated it too good. Yeah. What's it like having a business in California? Again, this is my first time here. I have this outside vision of what California was. And I spend some time, or this is not my first time here, but first time experiencing it and talking to shop owners. Is it difficult to run a business out of here or not that bad?
I mean, yeah, California is super, it's expensive. That's the biggest thing is the expense, right? So like, overhead on this place, I don't know. I think I'd have to go look, but it's like roughly like 125,000 a month, you know?
Oh shit.
Yeah. So it's like, there's a decent amount of overhead, and just the electric is 3,000 a month in this place, you know? So it's very different than, you know, maybe owning your own land and owning your shop and not having to deal with that. So California is, and they're not necessarily on your side. Like when we had to go get this place up to speed and get all the permits, like it was like a 1.5 year process. It ended up costing like $600,000 to get this place permitted, you know, because if you did over 10% of an improvement on the building, the entire building had to be brought up to code. So that meant like we had to put sprinkler system in here. All the California green had to be changed. Like every single light had to have a fire enclosure, you know, ADA for handicap. Like it was fucking insane. So that's, you know, even the air conditioning system had to be flowed. They have to do like a smoke test where you get permitted and stuff. So, but that said, I love California. And I love being here.
It seems like it's worth it for a lot of people.
It's totally worth it for me. My family's here. My wife's family's here. We're not going anywhere. You know, I love this place. The weather's freaking amazing, you know. But, you know, the cost of living out here, you know, it's like $7 for a gallon of gas. And, you know, tomorrow our awesome governor will probably put another $1 tax on it for no reason at all.
Yeah, you guys have a couple different types of taxes, don't you, on the gas?
It's insane.
Yeah, I can't even remember. Like the receipt's interesting. Although we didn't have to pay tax on our Starbucks today. So that was kind of a plus compared to Minnesota. Saved 97 cents on my coffee. I was looking at my receipts. I was like, oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Okay. Where did the alien thing come from, by the way? I keep looking at that.
The alien thing came from exactly what I was telling you, is like coming home after hanging out with my buddy and then just, you know, drawing it up. Because I always have I can envision what I want something to look at. Like I'm lucky in that way that I do have a ability to see some things before, you know, and know if I like it or not. And Alien was one of those things where you see an alien, you almost think Nelson Racing, because it's kind of iconic to us, you know.
It's just a very unique look. This is an alien right here, isn't it?
Yeah, that's an alien. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it looks different, man. It's
cool.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a new. So there's a guy named I don't know if you're familiar with Sean's Custom Alloy.
I don't know, maybe.
So Sean made this intake right here, but Sean's tool paths are like the best. His tool paths are so badass, you know. Like you can look at his tool paths and there's no like smudge from where the cutter went sideways and smudged it, and they all make sense. Like the lines come and meet each other right. So anyway, he's doing our new alien right now. And our new alien, like our old alien, was all about hiding things. So you can't see the throttle linkage on that, even though there's 2 throttle blades right in the front right there. You can't see the injector because they're all hidden on the inside. There's a whole fuel rail and fuel regulation built into the bottom of it, and it's all hidden. Whereas my new alien, it'll be more exposed. And I'm doing that just because when you got to work on that, if there's a problem, my ears burn across the country because it's really hard to work on. So our new aliens are going to be more like you need to check if the injector is good or wiring. You can just go and get to it. But that's how the alien kind of came about, is that we were doing sheet metal manifolds, and then we'd mount 2 fuel pressure regulators on it. Then we'd have to hardline the fuel pressure regulators for the boost reference. And then you had this terrible looking throttle linkage. Now everything's DBW, but on the side. But even still, you have this DBW motor hanging off to the side that looks totally out of place. So we wanted everything symmetrical, and we wanted it hidden. And so that's how the alien came to life, you know.
That's cool. One of the things you were showing us off camera was like, I never understood how you balance a crank. What goes into balancing a crank?
Yeah. So balancing a crank, you weigh the pistons and you make sure they're all the same. You weigh the rods, you make sure they're all the same. And then you weigh bearings, rings, rods, small end and big end, piston, pin, and you take all of those weights, and that becomes what's called a bob weight. So, you know, typical bob weights in a big block are like 2,500 grams. You take that 2,400 100-gram bob weight, and you put that and you clamp it onto the rod pin on each journal. So you have an individual bob weight, which is the exact weight of your pistons, rods, rings, bearings, etc., including oil allowance. And then we spin it dynamically. So then we take a crank, just like a tire. You put a tire on a tire balancer, and the thing is kind of jacked, and you got to add weights to the tire until it smooths out. Well, you do the same thing with a crankshaft. So our balancer, it looks like prehistoric because it's a floater, where all new balancers, it spins it once, and then a computer tells you, drill this 1 inch here, drill this 1 inch here, and then you can spin it again, and it tells you if it's in balance. But our balancer, you can actually see it when you're spinning it. So if it's out of balance, it shakes. Like if it's really out of balance, I've had it move the machine before it shakes so bad. And I don't want to ever get away from that balancer, because you can always see if the thing is balanced correctly. Like I get cranks in here, all the time from the best manufacturers that I have nothing bad to say, but they're never balanced right. Even if the thing's off like 30 grams, if you take 30 grams and you put that in a drill and you try to hold on to a drill that's out of balance 30 grams, you can't hold on to it, and think about what that's doing to your motor at 7,000 RPM, so we can get into different theories about overbalancing and everything else, but you want the crank to be as tight as you possibly can when you're building an engine, so it's as good as it possibly can.
Yeah, where did you learn all this theory? Were you a bookworm at some point? Is this from mentors? Like where, like all these various things, whether it's tuning or engine machining, whatever?
Yeah, honestly, it's for me, the way I learn is I got to put my hands on it. So I'll read about it, and that's like step one. But until I put my hands on it and I actually do it, then it doesn't really sink in. Like I can read about it, and if I don't put it into action, like a week later, I forget what the hell I wrote about, So, like for balancing, we just, again, you learn the hard way. It's still like, we're still kind of prehistoric in the way we do it. It's just each guy that uses a balancer, myself, BJ, a guy, Rudy, that used to be here. After a while, you get used to it. Like you can see the strobe. The strobe tells you where you need to take it out. And then you can pretty much, it's a little bit of a game. Like you're like, oh, I could take a 1 inch hole, drill it. There's a little chart and tells you, what, how deep and how wide will take off certain amount of grams. But you're always playing a game because you don't want the crank to flip light, or, like, so let's say you put the crank on and it's light and you have to add Mallory, or you have to add weight somehow. Then you need to figure out where you want to put that weight. Well, we have like bolt-on weights that you put on there, and then you can spin it to simulate it. But if you take too much out of the crank and it goes light, as a balancer, this is like the thing that you don't want to happen, because then you got to take everything apart, put it in the mill, drill, ream, and press weight into it, which makes the process way longer.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I was wondering. So are you basically just like drilling into like the lobes then?
You're drilling into the counterweights.
Okay.
So you take the counterweight, you take out the original material, and then you fill it with material called tungsten or Mallory, and that is like one of the most dense, heavy metals that you can do that's not radioactive, right? As a matter of fact, I put a post out on my Instagram the other day, and like due to, being used for ammunition for the war or whatever's going on right now, the cost of Mallory is just insane.
Yeah, you had like a handful. I think you said it was like $1,100 or something.
It's like $100 a stick. Yeah. Like for a piece this big, one inch piece is $100, So you got 6 sticks, $600 just in Mallory to balance it, so it's crazy.
Have you ever done anything out in Detroit, or worked with any of the OEs on anything, or any fun projects like that?
Well, like we did Shelby. We did that Code Red with Shelby. Yeah. So that was kind of like an OE thing. And then the other Shelby, which is SSC, which is, limited production hypercar. We do that. And, we've done some like NDA stuff with stuff that I really can't talk about.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you could tell me, but you'd have to shoot me sort of deal. Yeah. I get it. Yeah. What are you most proud of?
Most proud of is my family. The company, that's something that I learned is that I've had like, I guess this is, so I went through some really rough times, maybe 4 years ago. My brother passed away, and I was in a position where like I thought maybe I would never walk again, and in those times, like the shop, it does not matter. Like what matters is, the people that you love. So like what I'm most proud about is like I have an amazing wife. Like my mom and dad are like the most incredible mom and dad. I've got amazing kids. I've got an amazing niece that lives with me. So like I'm out of here every day at 6:00 no matter what right now, because I know that I'm going to be having dinner with them at 7:00, and that's like the most important thing. So I mean, I love this place. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, it's on my mind constantly. And like, when I'm driving to work, I am pumped to get here. I'm pumped when I'm here. But by far, my family is where it's at for me.
Okay. What's the next frontier for you? What's the next big thing you want to learn? Especially when we were talking about AI and all this stuff earlier.
I think for me, like, I think we really have been holding off on our manufacturing of parts. And we've got like 20 different parts that, like, I've said this for so many years and we just haven't done it. But we have a turbo, we have like stainless cast turbo headers and turbocharger packages, accompanying camshafts, intake manifolds. Like, so I think where we'll go in the future is parts production, where we sell a lot of parts that if you can't afford one of our engines, you'll be able to piece together something from us like that. And surprisingly, which I say again all the time, is we've shot like over 30 YouTube videos, which I've never released. And I don't even know why, but I think maybe this, by the end of this year, we'll actually start releasing all the videos that we shot.
Are you because like one of the things I was looking at is like your YouTube channel has been dormant for like 6 years. Is that kind of what you're referring to?
It's been dormant for it was dormant for 6 years where we did 2 videos, but it's been dormant for like 10 years. So, and that was really like kind of what our YouTube channel is like, what made us. My dad used to cut all the videos and put them up for me, and we would just shoot, like, we call it the 85% rule, because we just had like a little shit camcorder, and we would just shoot anything, and then he would turn it into something, and it was good because people who liked us would check in. So I think we're going to start doing that, but I just didn't want to, like, I wanted the production level of each video to be, high quality. So I think these next 20 or 30 that we released are going to be like, they were all shot with like on a red lit, like, doing moves, explaining things. And I think, I don't know, I wanted to do that. So that's probably why I've been holding off. And
fair enough. You got to light that candle. You got to iterate.
The editing is like, to get the time away to edit it, it's like, it's a lot. You should know,
Yeah, no, I did 400 videos almost last year, so I get it.
Yeah, so maybe we'll do that by the end of the year. I think that it'll be, maybe not by the end of the year on the parts, but, pushing towards the parts. And maybe by the end of the year, we'll start releasing videos again. Okay.
Well, towards the end of every episode, I like to ask a guest to pick 3 cars. Or this is what I call the final question. You get to pick 3 cars, and I'm a little sloppy on this today, but you have to pick a daily driver, a show car, and a race car. You have an unlimited budget, build whatever you want, do whatever you want. What are you picking?
A daily driver? My daily driver is going to be a 3rd gen IROC with the Roadster shop chassis. It's going to have one of my twin turbo 427s in it, probably with either, most likely a stick, but it could be an HP8. And so that'd be my daily driver. And then unlimited budget. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It might be a Lambo. I've always been a Lambo guy. I have a Lambo. I've got a Diablo. Mm-hmm. But probably be a Lambo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which Lambo? Newer one? Older one? Would you stay with the Diablo?
Maybe an Aventador. I don't know. Yeah, definitely. I don't think it's like the Diablo. Like I do like that, and it's this motor that we built for it is fucking awesome. We did life racing unit on it. We built our own intercoolers into it. It's got a pair of 64s on it. That's going to be pretty cool because it's that's an actual regular manual all wheel drive twin turbo 12 cylinder. So that's cool. But I don't know. We went up to the factory this summer. I took my family to Europe, and we went up to the factory and we're checking it all out. I was like, oof, I don't know. I do like Lamborghinis. And then a commuter. I don't know. I've got a 240,000 mile beater Infinity that I freaking love, man. I freaking love this car. What
was the IROC? Is that a track car?
The IROC would be a daily. So
IROC's daily.
Oh, daily. So so unlimited, and what was the other choice?
So track and show car. Oops. I actually get a little bit closer.
Yeah,
yeah, there you go.
Show car. Show car is probably the Maximus that we built. You know?
Which I want to talk about that car. I can completely spaced on that, but I do want to talk about it. So the Maximus.
Yeah. So the Maximus is like, well, that or the GTO, but I guess that's not a show car. The GTO that we're building, I could talk about both of them if you want to.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the Maximus is like, that was a car that was to showcase our abilities in the shop, right? So we took a 68 Charger and like, we literally have like 10,000 hours in hammer and dolly work on that body. That body, basically, it's 6 inches wider. Like all the wheel wells have been changed. There is so many things about that body, and there's no filler on that body anywhere. So if you look at this car, it's an all metal body that we literally put clear coat on. And if you've ever done body work, and you've done any welding on it, it's not straight. But if you look at this car, like you saw it today, right? Mm-hmm. It looks like it's paint, but it's just clear over steel. So, it took 3 years to get the body that way. We built all the rear suspension and the front suspension from scratch. Like inside the dash, we made these electronics where when you click the boost controller literally speaks to you and says like, warning, you've just increased the horsepower to 2,500 RPM. That's cool. 2,500 horsepower, and it'll automatically switch to fueling for you, and then you can it has a all original AM billet dash, so it looks like it looks like the dash is all period, and then you click a button and the dash moves in, flips 180 degrees, moves forward, and you have all iOS control of the AC, everything inside of there. It's an insane car. So that would be my.
So what inspired that? Where does that idea come from?
Just being nuts, right? So you get a customer who's as crazy as you are, and you just start going off. A car took us 7 years. Well, now it's still not finished because we're doing some electronics upgrades to it, but it was 7 years just to build the car.
When did it start?
Early, I don't know. I don't know. Let's say 2008 maybe or something. Okay. It was a long time ago.
So how did that car, because that car ended up in the Fast and the Furious as well, right?
Yeah. So
how'd that come to fruition?
So Dennis McCarthy, who handles all the cars for Fast and Furious, he originally reached out to me for the F-bomb, because the F-bomb was in Fast 4 or whatever that was. It's Fast 4, right?
Yeah, yep. That's what I saw when I was looking it up. Yeah.
So doing wheelies in the dirt, killing the dude. So Dennis, we had brought the car in all metal to SEMA, and Dennis is like, man, we got to have that car. So Scott, the owner, was, okay with it. So, we went to Universal and saw Vin Diesel, and then actually we went to the beach, which was absolutely the stupidest idea ever, because we took an all metal car that didn't have clear on it at the time to the beach.
Just sandblasted it?
Yeah. No, we just took it there, and it's the salt from the beach, So they were having this scene where, Paul says goodbye to, or whatever. I think it was, Paul said goodbye in the car, but he was also on the beach, holding his kid or whatever. And, the car's just sitting there rusting in front of my eyes, It took us a month to get the rust out of the pores in that thing, It was the stupidest idea ever. But yeah, they did that. And then we had this, what's funny about that whole scene in the whole Fast movie or whatever is the car had never even run like 3 hours before that scene was cut. So we were building that car, and then it wasn't finished at SEMA. It wasn't even running at SEMA. And Dennis is like, we got to have it for the movie. And Scott's like, can you make it happen for the movie? And I'm like, well, I really don't want to build the car for a movie, because like we're going to have to kind of make some shortcuts to get it finished. And they had like their grips waiting for us in the shop. And like one of my guys almost beat up one of their grips because they were like sweating us to get the car done. We're like, wait a minute, we're working as fast as we can to get this car done. And we basically put it in the trailer because we ran out of time. And when you see me turn the key, like when we pulled it out of the trailer for the scene where they both say goodbye to each other, I'm firing it up for the very first time. And I don't know if you've ever like fired your build up for the very first time. It usually doesn't go well,
Right.
you know. And but we pulled that off. It was pretty good.
What did I'm curious, right? Like what did the actors think of the car? Did they even think of anything of the car?
Yeah, I mean they loved it.
Okay.
Like, I guess Ludacris came up. He was like, "Oh man, that's badass," you know.
Sure.
And then I think Vin Diesel. I don't know because I didn't actually, you know, I don't even care really. But I guess Vin Diesel wanted it for his collection. But then they tried to do some stupid shit to where it was like, "Oh, give us a discount. We'll promote this or whatever." Like,
yeah.
But Scott, the owner, turned down $1.8 million for that car in Saudi.
Wow.
So yeah,
That's holy shit.
yeah,
That's insane.
yeah,
Oh yeah, because I guess it's not your car. It's technically the owner's car.
yeah,
That is a hell of a car.
yeah.
Yeah. So okay, so you said you're doing some stuff with it. So it was basically done at one point, and now it's like going back for like some more upgrades, basically.
He's got all sorts of crazy things in it right now. He's got like this radar where it's from multiple locations, and then you know the rear view mirror has cameras on it, and then all the like Bluetooth in the car where you can, you know, like the AC is controlled through iOS, and all these little like electronic gizmos. Like we're tightening all that up and finishing it up for him final there.
Is it still tuned on an AEM?
It's on an electromode of all things, which is pretty old. So, but it works, you know. So
yeah,
I mean,
as long as it works.
we're not rewiring it right now, so it's what it is, you know.
Yeah, what's in there for an engine?
It's a all aluminum 572 inch Hemi, and it's got a pair of my 88 millimeter turbochargers on it. It's got an Alien, you know. It's got all the, you know, billet crank rods, pistons. It's fucking nuts, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the show car?
Yeah, because that car, unfortunately, like if I were to take that car in a parking lot and somebody scratched that car, you can't blend the clear on a bare metal car. So for me, that car really, even though we do drive it around and stuff, that car is really, it's like that car truly is mechanical art, you know. We actually rent it, they rent it downtown LA, and we drove it around there, and we were filming. We were doing all these burnouts underneath this big famous bridge back there, and it was super fun. But as a daily driver or something like that, it would be so nerve wracking that it wouldn't be my choice, you know. I want something that, you know, somebody comes in and dents it, it'd be like, whatever, you know.
Okay, so that's that, and then track car's the Lambo.
Yeah, maybe a track car. Yeah, I'll tell you what. One car that we had that was super bitchin', that would be an awesome track car, is we did a twin turbo Musler. I don't know if you know what a Musler is. Yeah, we did a twin turbo 427 LS and a Musler, and that thing was insane, man. That thing was insane.
That's the video game car, right? The one that's like the stupid, like I think it's in Forza. It's like, yeah, no, I know the most. Like, yeah. Oh, it's coming back. Yeah, it's like I think it was like the top car in Forza or whatever, like a decade ago. But
yeah. I mean, maybe an SSC. Honestly, like, might have to convince Jared to get me in on one of those things. You know?
So. Yeah. So you said you're doing a production run of those right now?
Well, I'm not doing it. They are.
Yeah.
You know, there's a company. They're based in Washington, and so they're building this hypercar, and it's really like it keeps evolving, right? So it keeps getting better and better. So like, it's a pretty nice car, pretty nice car.
Well, it's kind of like when you look at like even like their competitors like Koenigsegg or even Bugatti. It's like they iterate. Oh, maybe not Bugatti, but they're like iterating every few years, like really quickly. So
and it's being that they're not like Volkswagen or Ford or something. They can make changes and they can evolve quickly. So they really are getting, every year that car is getting better and better.
That's awesome.
I will say I love a Bugatti. Those things are like, they're not. Maybe they're not the fastest anymore. Maybe they're not this, but just that car is just legit too,
Yeah, I mean, it's bespoke.
Yeah.
That's probably a good way of putting it. Well, on that note then, where can everybody find you?
You can see me at my Instagram is just at Nelson Racing Engines. My Facebook at Nelson Racing Engines. I actually have a TikTok, which is crazy. I just started that. Same thing, Nelson Racing Engines. And then maybe... we still have videos on YouTube. There's probably, I think, 250 videos up on YouTube right now. Nelson Racing Engines on YouTube. And probably by the end of the year, you're going to see a bunch more.
I'm excited to see where that goes.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, thank you very much for making this happen. This was awesome. A lot of cool stuff in here. This is kind of like a candy shop, so this is really sweet. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and listening, and we'll see you all next time.